we had the Democrats just pass a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill because of the pain and, frankly, the suffering that many millions of Americans are going through because of this pandemic. We have had more unemployment, contiguous months of unemployment filings than we did, and I should say at numbers that far surpass the Great Recession of the financial meltdown in 2008. However, there are some people who are doing really well. I mean, incredibly well. And by some people, I mean, really just a handful. And by a handful, I mean literally a handful. You could count them on your hand, but they have made more than $360 billion during this pandemic. I want to welcome to the program Nitasha Tiku. She is the tech culture reporter for the Washington Post. Nitasha, that's pretty amazing that there could be such a small group of people, men, who have made such an extraordinary fortune in such a short period of time. Why don't you tell us who we're talking about?
Sure. It is names that you will already be familiar with. At the top of the list was Elon Musk, who made $118 billion, a kind of unprecedented accumulation of wealth in just 1 year's time. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, the co-founders of Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. It's most of their wealth accumulation during a time, as you said, when so many are suffering, was really related to their holdings in their stock holdings in companies like Tesla, Facebook, Google. Steve Ballmer is there from Microsoft, and so is Larry Ellison. So yeah, it's some of the billionaires that we're familiar with, but we were really surprised to see, when we crunched the numbers, that they were all tech barons.
How much, I mean, relative to their existing fortunes? I mean, it's impossible to me conceive of $118 billion, frankly. And I mean, is Elon Musk, is that a lot for Elon Musk to make in a year? I mean, I imagine it would be, but I mean, how much money does Elon Musk have before he makes that $118 billion during the course of this past year?
Well, he was really an exception. His fortune quadrupled. So that is a massive amount. And it was all because of Tesla's stock. In Mark Zuckerberg's case, he made $29 billion, and that boosted him past the $100 billion mark. But Elon was the biggest earner, or saw the biggest rise in his net worth, to the point where he was jockeying with Jeff Bezos for the title of world's richest man. And as you said, yes, they are all men.
That is an incredible amount of money. So it's all based on the stock market, or is it primarily based on the stock market? I mean, so they're not necessarily, they play some, well, I almost want to say they play some good bets, but I think we should talk about that as to what the chances of those bets actually going south in this environment were.
Right. I should say, this is money on paper, as they say, because it's tied to their stock options and their shares in, being majority shareholders or dominant shareholders in these companies. However, as you noted, this is on top of already being at the top of the world's richest billionaires list. So even if it might fluctuate a little, we already saw one of the top earners get kicked off of the list, Dan Gilbert, from a GameStop-esque kind of short squeeze. But these people are probably in the upper echelon to stay.
Right. And we should also add that there's Jeff Bezos, before he made more billions in this past year, I think it was a couple of years ago, said something to the effect of I don't even know what to do with my money. Maybe I got to go to Mars or something, right?
Yeah, he and Elon are both looking to space to, try to make their legacy and spend some of their wealth. I mean, in Elon's case, it's through SpaceX, and in Bezos' case, it's through Blue Origins. But yeah.
Just to give folks a perspective on how much money $360 billion is, and this is amongst those 9 guys.
9.
$360 billion. And again, this is just how much their wealth increased this past year, not their total wealth.
Right.
The $1,400 stimulus checks that went to, even after the means testing, went to about 86% of the country, of the equals $410 billion.
Yeah.
So these 9 guys made almost, I mean, I guess it's $50 billion, but when you're at that point, made almost the same amount of money that the government spent to bail out 80% of the country. That seems to be problematic, doesn't it?
Yes. I mean, I think that the size, just kind of stupefying, staggering size of these numbers has really shifted the parameters of the debate around wealth distribution, and even just this idea that we've had, that's a uniquely American idea about benevolent billionaires, right? Like oftentimes in the past, I cover Silicon Valley, and folks say they would rather Bill Gates have the money or Jeff Bezos have the money to allocate capital because they're more efficient, they're going to be better than the government. But looking at those staggering sums has really made people question, especially in a time of like great inequity, whether or not, Silicon Valley can quote unquote save us. And that's not, something that follows around other for-profit industries, but it's a kind of a worldview that these tech titans have cultivated. Since the late 1990s, they have kind of argued that the growth of their companies is in and of itself a social good. I mean, we've seen that from CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg, who talks about connecting the next billion. We've seen that from folks like Elon Musk, who talk about the benefit to society of electric vehicles. And when we looked at comparing their wealth accumulation with how much they've donated, it kind of brought into contrast how the kinds of support, the kinds of public programs that we needed to actually deal with COVID-19 relief. Just, these tech companies are neither kind of capable, nor are they willing to invest in that. Apps are not going to save us, as one of my sources said. It's going to be a robust public response. And that's led to some lawmakers like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talking at this time about like a wealth tax, and, questioning whether or not it's fair for an executive like Jeff Bezos to have earned that much money while his employees are struggling and fighting for better pay and protections.
I want to address their giving and this concept of the benevolent billionaire in a moment. But you said something that I think is important to acknowledge and to explore a little bit, which is this is a uniquely American phenomena. Hi, I'm Sam Seder. You can watch the rest of this interview and more on our Peacock show, which streams at 5 p.m. weekdays on The Choice from Peacock TV.